on?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey there, I ain't pretending... The American problem seems to be that if the GOP want to be living in a theocracy, then give up the guise of democracy. If you want your God influencing your policies because you don't like sodomy, then fuck off, because the oddities of the morality of your prophecies shouldn't be dropped on me or the rest of the colony by the sovereignty. That is not equality. Instead of being prejudiced against inequalities, give a go at fighting for the suppression of inequality, the repression of hypocrisy and oppressive ideologies brought on by your aggressive idolatry. It's not an objective authority, it's a subjective philosophy with an excessive monopoly suppressing ethical autonomy. It presses paedophilia, that stresses honesty, stresses modesty, but spends with frivolity, presses the freedom to conformity, but condemns the freedom to question the commonly adopted religiosity, and I swear to nobody that it exists ironically. However, Christian extremists are still in power, seething over Muslim extremists for the towers, just to try and justify going to war and taking what's ours, that is, oil, lives and power. So just give a quick listen to my history of religion, especially those goddamn Christians, because what commenced as legitimate religious deference to the heavenly, peddling generosity and empathy, steadily descended to extremity and zealotry, extending their hegemony. Just look at the presidency. What do you think the presidency is? Because the complexity to these belligerent beliefs is unnecessary. It's like an appendix and needs to be an appendectomy, and it perplexes me how clerics be so carelessly misled from their destiny in the heavenly to a corruption from this inherently terrestrial heresy. Because the credence is originally conceived by connecting telepathically with a deity, getting humanity to cooperate collectively to make the best of our life expectancies. Well, they've been messed up terribly by being primarily interested in our prosperity, seeing others as secondary and merrily spreading our tyranny through any means necessary just to selfishly increase our longevity. And now their media is telling me, even Wikipedia is telling me, the greedy mentality they're feeding me is exemplary. However, less spending on defence should go hand in hand with austerity. But sadly, there's been some slight dexterity by the hand of God, the metaphysical marionette of the Foreign Secretary. The irony behind this is more violent than the iron in their weaponry. Look at the Crusades, bombings and wars going on incessantly, forgetting that one allegory in the Bible where Jesus medically helped those affected with leprosy, and instead of healing them, they sell them or give them weapons and ammunition to help them get to heaven at the end of their missions, leaving them stricken in division within a religion while we drill them for oil without legal permission. And the business of war enforces their force of global proselytism because they can't simply export it and sell it to them. Tell me this isn't the form of an American emperor's terrorism, enabled by the fables of Christendom and Zionism. Excuse my naive idealistic nihilism, if you please, because for all these atrocities there has as yet been no real penalties. The original idealized pleasantry evolved into ethical peasantry and governmental felony, so currently there are conflicts which still exist today and go on endlessly, and I'd be interested in their destiny. I hope these religious enemies in their quest for peace don't let the rest of us end up buried at the hands of chemical weaponry. I hope the legacy they're yet to leave will never be the death of me in their quest for ethical supremacy. It's just the repetition of history. Look at how readily the British massacred the Cherokee and all the other Red Indians when really we just wanted their territory. Sequentially and consequentially, Westerners lead their armies indefinitely as if it was meant to be, simply because of their defense of the American dream. So while they're still there enforcing suppression of developing areas so they can still buy oil and sell weapons, then use the Caucasian population's indoctrination for public persuasion. It was easy to sway those who were praying and just taking at face value whatever Congress was saying, instigating not a single interrogation over the invasion of modern-day Mesopotamia. And no, just due to racism against the Arabs, although that was the race of their saviour. And no, I'm not saying Saddam Hussein was great. I'm just saying maybe it didn't need such blatant predation on that already weakened nation. We just raped it for its oil, not the threat of uranium. And there are guys going at it, fighting and attacking it, and I just like to understand it, because I've had it with all these violence, some of these battles, these people dying in Zion from the Gatling gun rattle. They're still confined by the American sanctions. They can't escape the empirical shackles from when we played God and tore up the Torah's Garden of Eden on the eve when they went to sleep and conceived the American dream. That's when Saddam bit the apple. So we threw the Iraqis out of their garden like in Genesis, like the first chapter, then starved them of freedom like their free-range cattle, dismantled and ransacked the earth's mantle, gave them hell. Isn't that what God did in Genesis to man is his anger? And now, if one strays from the pack, they spend all their energy getting them back, and God forbid one of his herd has an allergic reaction to their first world propaganda to become a bastion of words, a worthy adversary to serving their fascist factions. So they censor or ban verses or actions, cursing as blasphemous, which is ironic, considering their actual idol is Bacchus, and of course the fucking bankers. Now, firing bullet after bullet through their Beretta barrels so they never have a lack of oil barrels with camouflage as the new American apparel. They are God's prodigal son, a real-life parable. Jesus wore sandals, but they have Adidas trainers around their ankles, enabled by the financial enslavement and strangling of third-world nations for some extra capital. And at Christmas, if a kid asks, "Daddy, who made these Air Jordans? We tell them it was Santa Claus. No mention of the orphans, all the lost sons and daughters, as poor in funds as they are in endorphins, whose parents' internal organs were blown to pieces by mortars dropped in China, Iraq, Palestine, Jordan. 10 trillions in debt with these wars. All these abuses ought to act as a warning that they can't really afford them, but they went and fought them anyway, despite costing a small fortune. Britain shouldn't be so hasty to support them. It's a shame to applaud them. In this modern-day Hastings, they're the Normans. Even if they wanted Mordor, they'd just walk in, of course, after waiting a suitable amount of human resources. Because we've got to get rid of this illusion. I'm not waiting till the triggers triggered disillusion. We've been used to killing too many civilians, a little more than we used to, actually. The Palestinians, Afghanistanis and Fallujahs are being used for the fuels for their cruisers, consuming tequila shooters and booze as they abuse the producers, and we need to listen to the wisdom of Confucius or the Constitution, not the wisdom of the rulers. We'd probably be better replacing them with Google, because they need to stop killing other humans. These oil giants are crushing other countries like they're full of Lilliputians. But I suppose invasion of the indigenous is in their heritage. Just look at what happened to the native Indian in the Americas. The media is being paid to instigate mass hysteria. Lady Liberty's a myth. She died. They buried her. Kept it a secret and replaced it with something terrible, unethical, obsessed with the numerical, chasing the American dream while they're restless from ingesting too many chemicals. Because maybe, if they stop telling kids they've got some disorder or attention deficit, all in order to peddle some Adderall or Ritalin just to help them add up all their unpaid debtors, and instead actually paid some attention to the deficit, maybe, just maybe, it may lead to everyone's benefit. Because, however, the US betrayed its own deity with a kiss like Judas, astutely soothing the faithful population with crucifixes, masquerading as the persecuted while actually incarnating the executioners, seducing the toothless Jews ruthlessly used to make stupid shit and mine for fossil fuels. The abuses of Iraq, the modern Garden of Eden, have been useless. They bit Saddam's apple of uranium atoms, but the bigotry of knowledge was fruitless, and they felled it and left it rootless. And we never took the 7th day off to rest. Instead, we took the day off and used military maneuvers to intrude and overthrew the rulers with no respect for rules like Ferris Bueller. And they left Fallujah in ruins, just like what the Romans did to the Druids. Like Brutus, they're doing it to maintain the illusion they get divine absolution for these inhuman acts of human execution. But they're not godly, they're surely inhuman. But sadly, the seed of revolution has been occluded by the fear of prosecution. However, if we want to regrow the tree of good and evil, they're going to need a new seed, a seed that seeks and beseeches to get rid of all this greed that leads to the amoral disinterest found in this interest in dividends, investments, and compound interest. Please, heed their pleas. On top of the killings we don't see in TV, illiterate children are working in a blistering heat, perspiration from the exertion glistening on the blisters on their feet, and we're teaching them to believe that if they'd had a christening, that God would listen into their needs and ease their crippling suffering pleas. But we still leave them with nothing to eat, nowhere safe to sleep, all the while we buy these shiny Nikes on the high street and complain when they can't supply quite the right sizing. And this is why I'm fighting against all the fucking fighting. Think about it, it's us who God should really be smiting. Because it hurts me to see the absurdity of the purpose of my university degree. Just look at how and see how this modernity inadvertently burns me, determines me on an impersonal journey, so I'm urgently, fervently working to be a sturdy to earn a further reimbursement for the Western fraternity so they can use perjury to nurse their fleur-de-lis and pay for the surgeries, hearses and infirmaries for the innocent personnel and mercenaries serving to mercilessly murder the insurgency. Thinking the universe revolves around the earth only to serve them and condemn the rest to serfdom. The world is their oyster, so they stand before us swine in a circle and twirl a necklace from its pearls. We're all civil servants to Cameron, i.e. the White House, the Church and Halliburton. Because innocent citizens, women and children are killed irrespective of guilt, submissiveness or fear, and the people are listening, but clearly it's falling on deaf ears because this is still what I'm enabling with my 9k each year. And America puppeteers this insidious, hideous, middle-class British militant coalition putting pressure on the peers. And despite their claims to be secular and governmentally atheist, they even have God in their Pledge of Allegiance for no good reason. And surely anyone who disagrees with that is an unclean heathen committing treason. And this is why they choose, just because they choose not to believe in Jesus or the Garden of Eden. It's not like they're worshipping fucking demons, they simply don't accept any religious credence. The LGBT community is vilified under the guise of religious freedom, but the state still indoctrinates their kids from the moment they first started breathing to see them and anyone else that challenges what they read in their scriptures and their precious Leviticus as completely different, even sinful human being, imbued with these views at home and school through teaching, and to be honest, I'm fucking seething. But just because I had the luck to be conceived a little wee cunt in a family with decent funds ill-begotten from Wall Street bucks doesn't mean I can't stand up and speak up against war moguls and hot water because they heated up the storm in the teacup. And the political elite stuck in a wee rut because of all the people they beat up. So sit back, relax, put your fucking feet up, watch them fuck our country up as they chill on their yachts and in their country clubs. But teeny bit of luck is that the citizens are ignorant of what their own country does. They just work to construct the pyramid of wealth like a mummy does. And while the government are out there fighting and firing all their funds, I'm just here trying to spit some fire, but my power is none in comparison with the empire of the rising sun. What? Hashtag JBeth.